Word ally. Description denotes a person or group that provides help or support, often in a political or cooperative context. It suggests a formal or significant relationship based on shared goals or mutual benefit. It implies trust and collaboration towards a common purpose. Phrases of example. First, she had a strange and terrible ally, a man who was a monster, but a man who was on her side. Second, he was an ally to the voiceless, a man who stood with those who had no one else to stand with them. Third, the sea is a strange ally, a friend in the morning and an enemy at night. Word merit. Description refers to the qualities or characteristics that make something valuable or worthy. It indicates deservingness or excellence, often relating to skill, achievement, or moral standing. It implies a basis for praise or reward. Phrases of example. First, the merit of a man is not how he behaves in times of ease and happiness, but how he stands in times of stress. Second, it is the privilege of those who are able to achieve their merit through honest labor. Third, the merit of our cause rests upon the integrity of our actions. Word substitute. Description, a person or thing that takes the place of another. It suggests a replacement, often temporary, and implies the original is unavailable or unsuitable. It's used when something or someone is standing in for something else. Phrases of example. First, he seemed to accept her as a substitute for something he had lost. Second, a substitute life, perhaps, but a life nonetheless. Third, they were substitutes, imperfect echoes of what had been. Word decide. Description means to make a choice or a determination about something. It's the action of selecting one option from several possibilities. It's used when you are making up your mind about what to do or choose. Phrases of example. First, I had to decide what was best for all of us. Second, I decided to go and find my own path. Third, you must decide for yourself what is true. Word concerned. Description expresses worry or anxiety about something or someone. It signifies feeling uneasy or troubled regarding a particular situation, person, or outcome. It conveys a sense of care and a desire to know more or help. Phrases of example. First, she was deeply concerned about his well. Second, I am concerned that the project will not be finished on time. Third, he seemed concerned, but his words offered little comfort. Word current. Description refers to a flow of water or electricity. It can also describe the present time or what is happening now. It signifies a continuous movement or the present state of affairs, often relating to trends or information. Phrases of example. First, the current of affairs is never stable. Second, the river's current pulled him downstream. Third, she sensed a current of excitement in the room. Word hang. Description means to suspend or attach something from above. It can also refer to the act of being placed on a loop or noose, or to spend time with someone. It's commonly used to describe objects suspended or social interaction. Phrases of example. First, he hung his head in shame, regretting his hasty words. Second, the portrait hung above the fireplace, a watchful eye on the room. Third, he hung on every word she said, captivated by her tale. Word thorough. Description describes something done or expressed completely and carefully. It means detailed, comprehensive, and leaving no aspect untouched. It implies a high degree of care and attention to detail in an action or investigation. Phrases of example. First, she made a thorough search of the room, finding nothing amiss. Second, a thorough understanding of the matter is vital to a just conclusion. Third, he undertook a thorough investigation of the crime scene. Word model. Description, to create or design something based on a plan or set of rules. It can also mean to behave or act like someone or something to demonstrate a particular style or behavior. It is often used in design, fashion, or imitation contexts. Phrases of example. First, he wanted to model himself after a certain ideal of masculinity. Second, she tried to model her behavior on that of her mother. Third, the new system would model the complex interactions of the ecosystem. Word strong. Description describes something having great power, force, or intensity. It can also mean having a firm or solid structure. It is used to describe physical attributes, feelings, or opinions with considerable impact. Phrases of example. First, he was a strong man, though he looked tired. Second, a strong wind blew, carrying leaves across the field. Third, she had a strong will, refusing to give up. Word this. Description, used to identify a specific thing or person that is near to you or that you have already mentioned. It points to something concrete and particular, distinguishing it from something else. It clarifies which item or person is being discussed. Phrases of example. First, this is the best of times. This is the worst of times. Second, this is the way the world ends, not with a bang but a whimper. Third, this is my greatest wish. Word crop. Description refers to a plant or harvest grown for food or profit. It can also mean a group of similar things appearing or occurring together. It's used when talking about agriculture, yields, or a collection of like items. Phrases of example. First, the land promised a good crop if the rain held. Second, a failing crop meant hardship and worry for the family. Third, they hoped for a bountiful crop this year, a reward for their labor. Word all right. Description means acceptable, satisfactory, or okay. It can also mean yes, or to give permission. It's a versatile expression showing agreement or indicating something is fine and meets expectations. Phrases of example. First, everything's all right, he thought. The boat's all right and the boy is all right. Second, and so with the sunshine and the great bursts of leaves growing on the trees, just as things grow in fast movies, I had that familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer. Third, I'm not all right, but I'll be all right in the end. Word study. Description refers to a dedicated period of learning, usually involving books and effort. It's the process of gaining knowledge about a subject, often at school or university, and can also mean a detailed investigation of something. Phrases of example. First, he bent his head to his study, and the hours passed like minutes. Second, a little study can be a great deal of benefit. Third, the constant study of language had begun to bore him. Word pour. Description means to cause a liquid to flow from a container. It describes the action of liquid moving steadily and quickly, often in a continuous stream. It can also refer to a large quantity of something coming quickly. Phrases of example. First, the rain began to pour, relentless and cold. Second, let the wine pour freely, for joy is ours tonight. Third, tears began to pour down her face, a silent grief. Word capture. Description refers to the act of taking someone or something prisoner or into possession. It can also mean recording an image or sound. This word describes the successful taking or recording of something, often after some effort. Phrases of example. First, the capture of Tenochtitlan ended the Aztec Empire. Second, the capture of that fortress would mean victory. Third, his capture was a turning point in the war. Word autumn. Description: autumn is the season after summer and before winter. It's a time of year when the weather gets colder and the leaves on trees change color. It is often associated with cozy feelings and harvest time. Phrases of example. First, I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. Second, life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the autumn. Third, the trees are in their autumn beauty. Word what? Description, used to ask a question about something. It introduces a question requesting information or clarification about a thing or situation. It is very common in questions asking for details. Phrases of example. First, what I have to do, I'll do. Second, what's done is done. Third, what is remembered is more than what is witnessed. Word, troubled. Description indicates a state of worry, distress, or difficulty. It suggests someone is experiencing emotional or mental challenges or facing problems that cause concern. It conveys a sense of unease or agitation. Phrases of example. First, his troubled mind saw worlds spiraling toward chaos, beauty fading. Second, she bore the troubled gaze of one who carries a great sorrow. Third, the troubled silence hung heavy, a testament to unspoken truths. Word, respective. Description indicates that each item in a list has a corresponding item in another list. It clarifies that each member of a group possesses a specific attribute or belongs to a particular category, avoiding ambiguity. Phrases of example. First, each man had his respective duty to perform. Second, they held their respective positions with grim determination. Third, each nation had its respective claims on the disputed territory. Word, oh. Description, a short exclamation expressing surprise, realization, or emotion. It can indicate a sudden understanding, mild shock, or a change in thought, often used casually in conversation. Phrases of example. First, oh, what a bitter sight. Second, oh, to be young again. Third, oh, I do hate to be wrong. Word, proud. Description, feeling pleasure and satisfaction because of someone's or something's achievements or qualities. It expresses a sense of accomplishment or admiration, often directed towards another person or object. Phrases of example. First, I am proud to be associated with such a fine organization. Second, she was proud of her strength and proud of her family. Third, he was proud, and he would not ask for help. Word, evil. Description describes something profoundly immoral or wicked, often associated with causing harm or suffering. It signifies a malicious nature and a violation of ethical principles, frequently used to portray negativity and wrongdoing. Phrases of example. First, evil has no dominion over the good. Second, there is no absolute evil, there is only abuse of power. Third, the heart is a dark and evil place, full of shadows and deceit. Word, main. Description means most important or principal. It describes the central or primary element of something. It's used to indicate the biggest, most significant, or primary aspect of a topic or item. Phrases of example. First, it is the main thing. Second, the main reason was that he was afraid. Third, the main trouble is, you see, that people are afraid of what they don't understand. Word, depict. Description means to represent or portray something in a particular way, often through art, writing, or a performance. It suggests a deliberate and thoughtful portrayal, focusing on how something is shown or presented to the audience. Phrases of example. First, the portrait depicted her with an unusual intensity. Second, the murals depict scenes from Aztec history. Third, the novel depicts a harsh reality of poverty and despair. Word, workplace. Description refers to a location where people perform their jobs or conduct business. It can describe a formal office setting or a more flexible work environment. It emphasizes the professional context of work activities and interactions. Phrases of example. First, the workplace was a battlefield, and he was losing the war. Second, his workplace held more secrets than he could ever imagine. Third, the factory was her workplace, a place of hard labor and little reward. Word, focus. Description refers to the ability to direct your attention on something specific. It means to concentrate your thoughts and efforts on a particular thing, ignoring distractions. It can also refer to a central point or area of interest. Phrases of example. First, the focus was entirely on her, the center of our universe. Second, I need to focus on my studies, not on what others think. Third, his focus shifted as he saw her standing alone. Word, beer. Description, a type of alcoholic drink made from grains. It is a common beverage in many cultures and often consumed socially. It's a simple noun referring to a familiar drink. Phrases of example. First, the whiskey and beer made her feel alive. Second, he was a man who lived his life on beer. Third, I felt a great and terrible need for a cold beer. Word, frightened. Description means feeling or showing fear. It describes a state of being scared or apprehensive, often in response to a perceived threat or danger. It can describe a person's emotional state or reaction to something frightening. Phrases of example. First, she was frightened by the shadows, hiding behind the old oak tree. Second, I was frightened to find that she was gone. Third, he felt frightened, alone, and lost in the vast wilderness. Word, space. Description refers to an area or region. It can describe a physical area like a room or a distance between things. It can also refer to outer space or a gap. It's a basic word for describing size and location. Phrases of example. First, there is a lot of space between us and the stars. Second, space is a vast and wondrous place. Third, there's a space between what people say and what they do. Word, aircraft. Description refers to a machine that flies, such as an airplane or helicopter. It's a formal term encompassing various flying vehicles, often used in aviation, technical contexts, or official reports concerning air travel and related industries. Phrases of example. First, I wanted to build an aircraft, but I had no wings. Second, the aircraft was a ghost in the sky, a silent machine that was a beautiful lie. Third, the world is a runway, and we are all just a kind of aircraft, waiting to take off. Word, declaration. Description, a formal or official statement, announcement, or explanation. It signifies a clear and emphatic assertion of something, often made publicly. It implies a degree of authority or importance in the statement being conveyed. Phrases of example. First, it was a declaration of war, and all of Europe held its breath. Second, the emperor issued a declaration that shook the world. Third, a formal declaration of independence was drawn up. Word, engage. Description means to participate, interact, or become involved in something. It describes actively taking part in an activity, discussion, or a relationship. It can also mean to attract or capture someone's attention or interest. Phrases of example. First, she engaged in conversation with him, as if she knew him all her life. Second, I want to engage my audience and create a dialogue with them. Third, he sought to engage the king's attention with his tale. Word, innocent. Description describes someone or something free from guilt or wrongdoing. It can also mean naive or lacking knowledge of the world. It indicates a lack of culpability or a state of being harmless and blameless. Phrases of example. First, he was innocent of any evil intention. Second, the innocent suffer more than the guilty. Third, innocent smiles can hide terrible secrets. Word, totally. Description means completely or entirely. It emphasizes a high degree or extent of something. It's a more informal way to say completely or absolutely, often used to express agreement or enthusiasm. Phrases of example. First, he felt totally alone, a speck of dust in a vast universe. Second, the joy was totally unexpected, a sudden burst of sunshine. Third, she was totally captivated by the music, lost in its rhythm and melody. Word, account. Description refers to a report or record of events or a description of something. It can also describe a formal arrangement with a bank or organization, allowing access to services. It's used when discussing records, reports, or financial arrangements. Phrases of example. First, this is a true account of the terrible things that have happened in this place. Second, his account of the incident was so detailed that it could not be anything but true. Third, the world's an account book, and every man's life is a running tally of his debts. Word, embarrassed. Description, feeling awkward, self-conscious, or ashamed due to a mistake or uncomfortable situation. It describes a feeling of discomfort or humiliation, often caused by a social faux pas or feeling judged. Phrases of example. First, I was embarrassed by the length of his reply. Second, he was embarrassed to admit he had been wrong. Third, she felt embarrassed by her own silence. Word, exhibition. Description, a display of works of art or other items, typically in a public place. It can also refer to a showing or presentation of something, like skills or qualities. It's often used in contexts like museums, fairs, or events. Phrases of example. First, the exhibition was a celebration of art and creativity. Second, the museum exhibition included many ancient artifacts. Third, she attended the photography exhibition, captivated by the images. Word, linear. Description, describes something arranged in a straight line or sequence. It indicates a progression or order without branching or deviation. It can refer to a timeline, a process, or a structure following a direct path. Phrases of example. First, the linearity of time is a construct, a convenient fiction, neuromancer, William Gibson. Second, he saw the city not as a linear progression, but as a network. Third, their progress was not linear, with advancements and setbacks marking their journey. Word, onto. Description, indicates movement to or placement on a surface. It shows that something is moving or being put onto something else. Think of it as a combination of on and to, showing direction and contact. Phrases of example. First, he climbed onto the roof and looked out over the town. Second, she stepped onto the stage, bathed in the warm glow of the spotlight. Third, the cat jumped onto the windowsill, watching the world go by. Word, pop. Description, describes something that is popular or well-liked, often referring to music, drinks, or trends. It indicates widespread appeal and enjoyment, frequently used to describe things that are currently fashionable or have a large following. Phrases of example. First, the pop of the champagne cork announced the start of the celebration. Second, the pop song was catchy, and everyone started to dance. Third, a loud pop startled them, and they quickly looked around. Word, competitor. Description, someone who competes with you in a contest or business. It can refer to someone trying to win something or a company trying to gain customers. It highlights a rival or someone striving for the same goal. Phrases of example. First, a worthy competitor brings out the best in me. Second, he faced his competitor with a confident stride. Third, the new brand was a formidable competitor in the market. Word, experimental. Description, describes something that is innovative and designed to test a new idea or method. It suggests a trial run or a prototype, often involving a degree of uncertainty or risk. Results are not guaranteed, and the purpose is to gather data and refine the approach. Phrases of example. First, his experimental music was a challenge, but it opened new ways of listening. Second, the chef's experimental cuisine delighted and perplexed the diners. Third, her experimental techniques pushed the boundaries of photography. Word, employer. Description, is the person or company that pays someone for their work. It refers to the entity that provides jobs and manages employees. It's who you have a working relationship with when you're employed. Phrases of example. First, my employer thought me useless. Second, he was a good employer, but he was also a hard man. Third, my former employer gave me advice on how to write a novel. Word, recycle. Description, means to convert waste materials into new products. It describes the process of collecting and processing materials like paper, plastic, or glass to reuse them, reducing waste and conserving resources. Phrases of example. First, we must recycle our resources before they are all gone. Second, recycle the guilt, the shame, the blame. Third, we recycle our dreams and rebuild them. Word, meaningful. Description implies something has significance, purpose, or value beyond the literal. It suggests a depth of meaning or importance, often evoking emotions or provoking thought. It is used to describe experiences, relationships, or objects with a profound impact. Phrases of example. First, a meaningful existence is not the result of finding oneself, but of making oneself. Second, the pursuit of meaning, the quest for the meaningful life, is always a solitary one. Third, he sought a life both useful and meaningful, a life of direct action and demonstrable result. Word, anybody. Description means any person. It's a nonspecific term. Used when referring to someone without naming them, or when asking a general question about whether someone is present or agrees. It's a more informal way of saying any person. Phrases of example. First, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it, and that applies to anybody. Second, I don't want to get married to anybody, I just want to have fun. Third, I don't know anybody who's a hero, I just know a lot of people. Word, lab. Description, a place where scientific tests or experiments are done, often equipped with special tools and equipment. It's a common term in schools, universities, and workplaces related to science or technology. Phrases of example. First, the lab was filled with the smell of chemicals and burnt sugar. Second, I'm going to the lab to finish my experiment. Third, she spent hours in the lab, meticulously recording data. Word, attractive. Description means pleasing or appealing to the senses. It describes someone or something that is visually pleasing or that has qualities that people find desirable. It's often used to describe appearance, but can also apply to ideas or situations. Phrases of example. First, there are very few of us who are not more attractive than we appear. Second, she had an attractive face, a kind of beautiful and terrible face. Third, he was a man who was attractive in a very strange way, a way that was not about his face or his body. Word, height. Description refers to how tall something is or the distance from the base to the top. It can also describe an elevation above sea level. It's used when talking about measurements of tallness or altitude. Phrases of example. First, the mountain's height was a challenge, a test of courage. Second, she stood at a dizzying height, the world spread below. Third, the building's height dwarfed everything around it.